prayers that you lift up your cross as the place of wholeness and health and healing for the whole world. Again, acknowledging that the cross is foolishness to those who refuse to believe. But for those who will receive and believe you, you become in us the very power of salvation. In that salvation, in your power, your work, and your healing, take these words and speak in them. Take our minds and think in them. Take our hearts and continue to melt and mold us in the fire of your love. And in your love, make us increasingly accountable to you, so we might indeed love you all the more, and our neighbors as ourselves. Amen. So this series of prayer has been, I think, quite a range of seeing the importance of prayer, and whether or not we have changed our discipline of prayer. I hope it's been an encouragement to know that really prayer is the breath of life. If I was to summarize in some of the themes of gifts, some of the themes in terms of God speaking to us, but us listening to Him, that privilege we have of prayer, really a hallmark of one of the spiritual disciplines, or I suppose indicators of life and vitality, and our openness to His Spirit. I have a story that maybe gives a little summary of prayer, and it's from a war story. In 1945, right after the end of the war, post-war London, a small boy, if you can picture a small boy standing in front of a bakery. Of course, many of the shops had been destroyed, but this bakery still had some glass in it, and the little boy peering in on a cold, cold morning, and almost frosting up the window with his breath, and looking at the bakery inside, and the fresh donuts and bread that was there, knowing that he had no means as an orphan to really have any of this fresh bread. Of course, England had food stamps as well, government food stamps. But as this little boy was peering in, longing for some of this fresh baking, an Allied soldier who was still stationed in England to help with some of the rebuilding, this Allied soldier saw this young boy and went over and asked the boy, "Would you like something? Maybe a bun or a donut?" And the boy said, "Oh, yes, he'd really like a donut." The soldier went into the shop, came back quickly, and had a bag, a dozen full of donuts, and handed it to the little boy, who was, of course, outstretched hands and a little bit trembling. And all he could say was, stuttering, "Thank you." But then the added comment was, "Are you God?" And I think that may be an image of prayer for us. With all the longing and desires of our hearts, that which certainly captivates maybe our eyes, but even deeper, those needs that we have, that our God comes to us with abundance, with bounty, and with that amazing gifts of much more than a dozen donuts, but with the whole gift of creation, His truth and His love and His presence always. A small picture of prayer it is. Looking through a glass even darkly, hoping for a new reality. Only a small picture of prayer. But for those who are looking at health issues, you see, and looking at a blurry glass, you see, we want someone to come and say, "I can take your hand." For those who perhaps have transitions in life, decisions to make, or maybe those addiction issues, whatever that might be. Drug or alcohol, all of the other issues that can pile up on ourselves. Real life issues. It may seem unlikely that we can afford whatever it is that brings us full health. And we need someone to come and meet us. This image is not unique to me as a pastor, but for you as you've stood with other people and families and friends. I'm thinking of that hospital room. And you could add whatever place you want, be it nursing home, wife or mother, son or daughter. And that comment that's come to me repeatedly, we prayed for full health. You see, we prayed that this wouldn't happen, and now it has. This announcement of cancer, this, and list whatever it is, they're all real, they're all significant. We prayed that another year would be given. And for me to hear that as pastor, to listen, and to know the pain therein. Therein is the pain that we prayed earnestly, believing that God would bring about that change, that health, that diagnosis that was cancer-free. And yet it wasn't meant to be. And so you and I sit in this tension. The tension, really, it's palpable, it's real, and not just theological, but it's emotional. The tension of believing that this story of the woman who reached out in faith maybe desperation, touching the hem of the garment of the Master and was healed instantly. And yet we know so many times it is not true, that answer has not been ours. For me or for you, it just hasn't worked out that way, the way that we wanted God to answer our prayers. And of course, we've heard stories, and should tell many stories, of people being healed miraculously. And prayer is a vehicle for cure, that we've announced earlier in this series of James, a wonderful text. Any of you are sick, you're commanded to come. Have elders pray over you, anoint with oil. And the prayer of a righteous person will avail of her amount much. We know of scientific studies, and thank you for Aaron leading this morning with the most prominent issue in terms of health is prayer. But we also know of many people who have been prayed for, who don't recover, who seem to move on in terms of that Alzheimer's, maybe that issue, or whatever it is. The symptoms get worse. They're not cured. And we know people who die. And for many people, that juxtaposition, that reality, yes, we believe in prayer, miraculous, but it doesn't work for me, it must be for somebody else or another time and place. And so the possibility that we lose our faith, we grow in apathy rather than faithfulness. We sometimes think of a God who cherry picks, and some God who bless those people because they are more faithful, have brighter teeth or something. Somehow, God blesses them and not me. God doesn't abandon them, but He's abandoned me. God picks favorites. And so that cycle of despair and even apathy can enter into. And of course, we're not interested in debating whether or not prayer cures. And bless some of the university programs as well as our own city council, that prayer makes a difference. And what difference does prayer make? It's a great discussion. So we don't debate in a sermon, certainly. And the issue as Christians is not to debate whether prayer does have effect. Because there's evidence for both. Sometimes prayer just doesn't seem to make any effect. My recent reality, the witness that I had with my mother, diagnosed last June with liver cancer. If prayer is a physical healing, because he could have been helped, we wanted her to be 100. Great legs. She ran every day. But in June she had this pain, you see, and then died in August of last year. Surely God could have another 2 years, 5, 7, 1. I had a cousin who was this past decade been struggling with Lou Gehrig's. And if you know anything about ALS, she's a brilliant woman living in Boston. She's a professor. ALS, that amazingly painful disease where your mind is clear. Opposite to Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's, you lose your mind, your body can be good. ALS, you see, your mind is so sharp. But it starts with your extremities, sort of like leprosy. But in one sense, it's all of those neurons that affect your muscles so that you can't control for your feet and then your limbs. And pretty soon you don't have any control, but your mind is sharp. And if you haven't read Tuesdays with Maury, it's a great story of that. That was my cousin went through. We wanted her to live. She's brilliant. But ALS, you see, there is no cure. She's died. Personally, 92. I lost my voice, which is a preacher's nightmare. It's the worst thing in the world. You have to listen to people. It's a terrible thing. I was being stupid. I was overworking. It's a terrible thing. But this I happened to be a Jewish ENT, ears, nose, and throat. Did all the allergy tests. Eventually said it's in your head. You're stupid. You're working too hard. You're dumb. But a very good church management team. I think Dr. Martin Ellison was our president at the time. Took a month off. Through prayers of some of you people, also ministerial, anointing oil. I've been working on it for over a decade now. My voice is not as strong as it once was, but we still carry on. Family-wise, my son's suicide in 98. Our prayer became out of that Tammy and I stayed together. The alarming statistics of the loss of any child, let alone suicide, is that families implode, or explode, or whatever it is. They separate. Our prayer is that we stay together. And you've assisted in that. Further, we prayed that we would not become bitter. And that can often happen with disappointments, you see, in great loss. that we would not be